I do have horrible breaking news. This just in, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he spilled a bottle of Hoppers at the Charlie XCX concert.
You're done. You're done. You're
Horrible
done.
news. Start your sublight engines. It's time for RuPalps Padres, a queer Star Wars podcast, and welcome back to another week of chaos. This week, we're going to be talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi in preparation for Kenobi's premiere this Friday. My name is Noah. My pronouns are he, him. You can find me on social media at The Jewish Jedi. And my gender this week is the Stages of the Cross as performed by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, so we will be discussing today how the pipeline to Jesus. We're all discussing it.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Mel. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me on social media at Melvin Culpa and on TikTok at Grunkle Rex. And my gender this week is Rael Averos.
Oh, I miss that man.
Just thinking about him today.
He walked so Alzar could run.
He fucked when no one else would.
I know he wasn't mentioned in the Brotherhood book, which we'll be discussing today, but there was a moment where they kind of talked about Qui-Gon and attachment, and I was like, oh, he learned from his older brother.
My name is Ollie. I use any pronouns. You can find me on social media at Ollie Fresh. It's Fresh with a PH. And my gender this week is, this one goes out to all the RuPalps fans who've been with us for a while. My gender this week is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Very well done.
Oh, sweet.
Very nice. Hi, I'm Claudia. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on social media at Kaludia Says, Kaludia Says. My gender this week is related to the Brotherhood novel that just came out. I just finished reading it. It is Obi-Wan shaming Anakin for liking NASCAR. In the book, it is revealed that Anakin likes to change the channel on the TVs in the Jedi Temple a lot to show pod racing. And he's a bit of a sports bro, specifically just pod racing. And I believe one of my mutuals tweeted something of like, let that man go to a sports bar. I'm just imagining my other gender was going to be Anakin at a Buffalo Wild Wings, so... And then I was tweeting about it, and then I was like, well, Han Solo, especially if you read Bloodline, is canonically also not just pod racing, but a racing fanatic as well. And, you know, in another universe, I do think that Anakin and Han would bond over that. I think they like they like Formula One racing.
This is my AU in which Anakin lives and does not turn to the dark side. And he's like, you're my daughter's shitty boyfriend who's 10 years older than her. And he's like, yeah, and they have this like weird constant arguments, but then Han puts on pod racing, and Anakin's like, oh, you like racing? He's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm kind of into it. He's like, oh yeah, and they start talking, and everyone's like, oh my god.
They talk about cars together because they like fixing things.
Yeah, they talk about cars, and then it mends their relationship and brings the family closer. And that
Absolutely.
is my pitch for the next Star Wars
2.
movie. That is Solo 2. You're so right.
That should be the Taika Waititi movie.
Taika Waititi's Solo 2.
My name is Jess. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter at Kawaii Jessyo. And my gender this week has nothing to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi. My gender is just a quote. It is failed. I have into exile. I must go because the others know why. Or should figure out why this is my gender. It's because I didn't do research on what we're talking about.
I will
It's
say,
okay, neither did I.
like, I have horrible news. At the beginning of this call, I did say how many people did research, and only one person raised their hand, and it was me. So
I think it's okay if we didn't do further research on one of the most popular characters who does appear in the first film.
Speak for yourself. I don't know what a Star War is. My brain is empty. My brain is so smooth. You could use it as a soccer ball if you want.
That's true. This is a Doctor Who podcast. I would like to be talking about the 14th Doctor now.
my favorite character from Doctor Who's name is John Cena. John Cena, my favorite Doctor Who character.
Here's the thing. I thought you were going to say John C. Reilly, and I was like, that's an interesting choice for Doctor Who.
John C. Reilly is like as the Doctor,
as the Mr. Doctor,
as not the Doc. He's Doctor Who. Because the doctor's name is not the
Weird
doctor.
and-
Doctor
Okay.
Who was my father. Call me John C. Reilly.
Mel,
No.
please take us, please take it away.
Anyways, okay, fine. I guess I'll talk about fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. As we all know,
Boo, tomato.
character that I have on multiple occasions said that I'm obsessed with. He is my favorite character. I know everything about him. That was a joke for those of you who don't know me. Not that I don't give a fuck about Obi-Wan, but I don't give a fuck about Obi-Wan. So here we are. I'm going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sorry if you were in enjoyment.
Way to start it
I know,
out,
but
Mel.
like, damn.
Hey guys, if you like Obi-Wan Kenobi, you can fuck
You.
off.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm bringing a weird energy to this podcast today. I've been up since 6 doing work stuff, and so I'm just kind of in a weird state. I got a coffee right before this. This is all to say. Obi-Wan Kenobi was born in 57 PPY? Oh, fuck me. I just want this one piece of information, and then I will shut the fuck up about accuracy. I feel like I'm on My Favorite Murder. I feel like I'm just, like, saying things. Right? Like,
Oh my god, I love the Karen Kilgarification.
no. Okay, sorry. I'm just saying. Yeah. Okay. Period. Obi-Wan Kenobi was born in 57 BBY on Stewjon, which yes is the planet named after Jon Stewart. Basically, he's brought into the Order. He's a little guy. He becomes the Padawan of one Qui-Gon Jinn, and they kind of have this not issue. Well, it's an issue, but it's not. If that makes sense, like conflict. With one another, wherein Obi-Wan just has this sense that he is not either good enough or like just like has this unsureness of himself, and he really needs validation from others. However, Qui-Gon Jinn is not the type to give validation in the way that Obi-Wan needs it, and so it becomes kind of this point of contention. They like have several missions together in their youth, including one where one Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn go to Mandalore, and Obi-Wan has a little moment with one Satine Kryze. We don't know too much canonically about what happened there, but there was a little bit of a romance.
If you'd like to know everything about that, you need to follow Julia Christine77 on TikTok. Watch
So
every
true.
single one of her videos. Listen to Star Wars English class. And she has all the facts and all the figures on that. She is the expert.
So true. Pablo Hidalgo, shaking, crying, throwing up. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are working together, but things kind of not come to a head, but really become very noticeably conflict when Qui-Gon is invited to join the Jedi Council, and he doesn't tell Obi-Wan about this, and Obi-Wan finds out, and he's like, oh my god, my master's gonna fucking leave me. What did I do wrong? Like, I'm a fucking failure. Fuck me, I guess. And it creates this kind of inner conflict, even though Qui-Gon's not thinking about that, because he's like, I don't want to join the fucking council. Are you joking me? Slavery is bad, guys. We need to abolish slavery. And then Yoda's like, I guess maybe. Anyways, they have this whole thing. They hang out with Rael Averross, who is Dooku's other Padawan. Rael Averross, girly, I am obsessed with you. He does fuck, canonically.
He's introduced with Qui-Gon walking in on him with a woman.
He's like, whoa, you're a freak. So yeah, they just kind of have this conflict. It ends up resolving itself because Obi-Wan kind of comes to this thing of like, my master is very different than me. He always goes against the grain, so I want to be kind of the opposite of that. I want to be the quote-unquote perfect Jedi. I know we talked about this. We don't want to mention one Stellan Gios, but I do fear he was something of a Stellan Gios Kinney, and he took that just a little too hard. So hard that he died on the Death Star. I rest my case.
What is the Death Star if not just like a virgin Starlight Beacon?
Evil Starlight
Well,
Beacon.
I mean, we could probably talk about the parallels between Stellan Gios and Obi-Wan all day, but yeah, like Stellan definitely is a different person, but I think the part of Obi-Wan, I mean, I think this is something that I've liked about the additional media, one might say, about Obi-Wan, is like delving into like that, like who he is as a person, not just in relation to other people, but in like his imposter syndrome, or his like, oh, I have to be the perfect Jedi, so I can't do this or I can't do that, and people continuously telling him like, you can still be a good Jedi and not form attachments, but basically like form attachments or show emotion or whatever, and he's like always trying to live up to something, and Stellan is very similar in that, and it's very interesting to me when I can't wait to see Stellan as a little baby child. Stellan had friends as a kid, obviously, and Obi-Wan, we have only really seen him canonically as a kid, with like as a kid, not as a Padawan, a teenager with Qui-Gon, in the recent like first issue of the Obi-Wan comic, where like he clearly makes friends very well and cares about them quite a lot, and his story is a little bit reminiscent of Ty, a little bit. I don't know how many of you read that first issue of the comic, but it is very reminiscent of Ty, and who has a little Jedi friend who runs away or perishes in the case of Ty. But
to Obi-Wan's defense, his little bestie was not British museuming it up on some planet.
Oh, absolutely. No,
so true.
I would
not
say
saying Kylie Carradine deserved it, but
no,
I am.
They're very different, but I think it's more just like how they took it or whatever. Obi-Wan is a little perfectionist. That is why he is one of my little guys. Maul has become a more important little guy to me, but I think thinking about Obi-Wan as being like, I have to be perfect and have to be the perfect Jedi, whatever. I'm like, oh, sadly, you are so relatable, especially when you were a kid. And Qui-Gon, I know there's a lot of hate for Qui-Gon from Legends, but in canon, he is very sly. He is very sly, especially in Master and Apprentice, which is one of my favorite Star Wars books, and has Qui-Gon's and Star Wars' best quote of all time.
He is, when Qui-Gon's like, oh, ow, I fell on my taint.
I hate you.
Okay.
I hate you so much.
From Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, remember, I think I'm really happy that Claudia Gray managed to bring that into canon after it got cut out of Phantom Menace. The extended scene where Qui-Gon Jinn fell on his taint.
So actually that's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I also am covering the Phantom Menace. So in actually the end, there was a scene that was cut after Darth Maul does stab him very badly, where he says, "Oh, I fell on my taint," and that's what he dies of. Those are the injuries he succumbs of.
I'm becoming Darth Maul and killing you all.
Anyways,
the stab would actually probably, because it was a lightsaber cauterized, like he would have been fine, but the fall is really what got him.
It was the taint damage he ascertained. Anyways, point is, let's talk about the Phantom Menace. In the Phantom Menace, basically, Obi-Wan Kenobi is an adult Padawan. He is like, how old is he? Like 25?
Yeah, he's like mid to late 20s,
okay.
So very relatable.
I believe he is canonically 25 years old.
I think he's 25. Anyways, so he is 25 years old, which is traditionally not the age that most Padawans are. I've always at least thought in my head that Padawans are like middle school to like college age. So like at the oldest, like 20.
People have talked about how in the Clone Wars, like, you have Padawans who are younger and younger. They keep selecting them younger and younger. But also in the High Republic, when they're talking about Bell, they talk about how he's getting a little old to be a Padawan. And I believe he's like 19, right?
He's 18 in Light of the Jedi.
Yeah, so he's closer to basically Anakin's age in Attack of the Clones. But it's just interesting to me, like, they're and I believe they say in some canon material, cannot remember which one it is, that Obi-Wan stayed a Padawan for far longer than is normal. Because he was like,
Super senior.
Literally.
This is giving me academia anxiety. We can't.
But also parallels between Bell Setafar and Obi-Wan in the fact that they both lose everyone they love consistently. It hurts me a lot.
Yeah,
not Indira Stokes.
Not Indira.
Not Indira. Let's go, guys.
Queen.
Qui-Gon could never be her.
No. Okay, sorry. I've talked about this before. I do think that Loden and Bell are like if Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan talked about issues that hurt them, and then Qui-Gon was like, what if I shoved you off a cliff? That is the vibe.
To be fair, that is Qui-Gon's canonical vibe.
Yeah, but I think it's also that Obi-Wan is receptive to that. That he's like, okay, this is fine. It's fine. I'm learning how to fall. Anyways, point is,
learning how to flop.
Learning how to flop. That's so true. One would argue that getting a Padawan when you just were knighted at the age of 25 and you're getting a 9-year-old Padawan, that's kind of a flop era.
I did want to say, the quote earlier, we were talking about Rael Averross. So Rael Averross, Dooku's first Padawan, Qui-Gon's older brother, like, he's kind of in the story of Master and Apprentice to kind of almost be like a political foil to Qui-Gon, like to show the Jedi have different ideas politically and philosophically, a lot like the High Republic, actually. But the quote comes from actually a conversation that they have, and I just it's quite good, where basically Rael is like, it means the darkness would be just as strong as the light. It doesn't matter which side we choose, blah, 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 blah. He's very nihilist. Niall. And we can't keep doing this. And Qui-Gon says, it matters which side we choose, even if there will never be more light than darkness, even if there can be no more joy in the galaxy than there is pain. For every action we undertake and for every word we speak, for every life we touch, it matters. I don't turn toward the light because it means someday I'll win some sort of cosmic game. I turn toward it because it is the light. The slay that is, like, when he said that, I was like, that's the thesis of Star Wars. Qui-Gon, I love you so much. Holy shit.
True. It's such a shame he dies in a passion in The Phantom Menace.
Literally.
Because he fell on his tail. Like, that's ridiculous.
I just, when I think about that idea, I just think, like, I'm sure that's going to be a prevailing idea in the Obi-Wan series as well, is like, when all hope is lost, like, what the fuck is the point, is going to be that kind of deal. Anyway, I just made myself sad.
Obi-Wan's manic depression era. I can't wait.
Literally.
Obi-Wan, I almost said Obi-Wan Vitus. What the fuck? Obi-Wan has run into the woods.
No.
Tatooine.
Actually, what if Obi-Wan is a Comac stan instead of a Stellan stan?
True.
Why can't he stand both of them?
That's
he stands
true.
them and their love.
Oh my god, young Obi-Wan wrote Stelmac fanfiction.
Anyways, I have to finish talking about The Phantom Menace, because I was about 30 seconds into talking about it.
Sorry!
In The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan Kenobi is an adult Padawan. And his master is like, okay, we're doing little fun games, which is to say, stopping a trade dispute. Anyways, the girlies are trying to help Naboo end up working with Padme Amidala.
Shout out to Queen's Peril.
So true. And Obi-Wan, I don't want to say he has, like, not a huge role in this movie, because he has a very pivotal role at the end there. But, like, for the most part, he is just like, hey guys, it's me, Obi-Wan. I'm on this ship with all the handmaidens, and Padme and Qui-Gon are going into town without me.
With my stupid little haircut.
I will say, I actually quite enjoy The Phantom Menace as a movie. It is one that I grew up with. But something that I think is very funny about it, and this is going to make a lot of the girlies upset. Ewan McGregor without a beard scares me a lot. Obi-Wan in that movie, like, visually, he just terrifies me for some reason. Every time he's on screen, I'm like, I feel like I need to look away out of respect.
I can't with you.
Like, I just don't like
I get that, Ollie.
Thank you. I just don't. The baby face freaks me out. I'm like, you're too old to look like that. Stop it. Anyway, that's my thought about
I'm
Obi-Wan.
pretty sure Ewan McGregor was like 24, 25 when they filmed that. So
No, but that's what I'm saying is I'm like, sir, you are too old to have a baby face, and it's troubling to me.
Fun fact about Ewan McGregor, he and I have the same birthday. So, slay.
Slay.
Anyways, The Phantom Menace is a movie that Obi-Wan Kenobi is in. He is certainly there. He ends up having to fight one Darth Maul, because Mr. Qui-Gon Jinn. Why did I say it like that? Whoa. Okay.
Mr. Qui-Gon.
Mr. Qui-Gon Jinn. Oi, Mr. Qui-Gon, you me dad.
I miss you. That's literally Anakin.
The plot of Master and Apprentice. So The Phantom Menace is a movie where Obi-Wan is an adult Padawan.
Yeah, I mean, literally, his role in this movie is like, I'm an adult Padawan. I'm certainly here while things are happening. Uh-oh, my father figure, my bestie, Qui-Gon Jinn, just got stabbed in a passion. Guess I'm gonna have to fucking kill this bitch. And then he does chop Darth Maul in halfsies. So, oopsies. And then he's like, wait, I do have a 9-year-old child, I guess, who is my new little bestie. I guess that everything worked out because things were going to get messy there for a second because Qui-Gon takes Anakin in, right? And he's like to the council like, hey guys, this is my new best friend, Anakin Skywalker. Here's also my Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I can't have both of them at the same time as my Padawan, so like, it's whatever. We'll burn that bridge when we get there. And then he burns the bridge that is his body, I suppose.
No.
You're done.
Is that not what happens in the movie?
You're done.
No, I mean, it's completely right. His Quigussy got roasted.
His Quigussy.
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 Oh my god, we can't keep getting away with this.
Wasn't like Maul, his whole Maul-lissy got like cut in half. Like,
Yeah.
cut off.
Exactly. It could be so much worse. His taint fell out down a hole in the boo. And he died.
And it was lost forever. He never got his taint back.
No,
He
what though?
never
I will
found it.
say it's really good that Savage was able to get Maul back to the Night Sisters so Mother Talzin could make him a new Tane.
Yeah.
Okay.
If
You
you-
go-
Truly,
okay,
truly
we've-
leaps and bounds and prosthetics being made in the Star Wars universe.
We've talked before about how Obi-Wan is a trans ally and he gave Maul bottom surgery.
true.
So, you know.
I love gender affirming healthcare, a lightsaber. Anakin becomes Obi-Wan's Padawan. It's a weird thing of like, he's like, okay, first of all, most of the time Padawans do not come to you at 9 years old. So that's interesting. That's fun. Followed by, this is a child who was not raised in the order. So there are complications that come with that. But because Qui-Gon believed in Anakin, Obi-Wan will believe in Anakin and care for him. That is basically where we end off in The Phantom Menace. There's the orb. Pondering the orb.
Not the orb. After that, there's a comic called Obi-Wan and Anakin that is actually one of my favorite comics because it puts down a lot of rumors, namely one about Mace Windu, about like, nobody else cared about Anakin, whatever. Like, other Jedi tried. Like, in that comic, I remember Mace Windu being like, hey, Palpatine, maybe you shouldn't talk to this child. And Palpatine basically be like, I pay your bills. I can do whatever I want. I can groom children. And you're like, holy shit, this is crazy. It's a really good comic. I very much recommend it. But I think a thing that characterizes all of these media, Master and Apprentice, the comic, the end of The Phantom Menace, and Brotherhood that I just read, is that they are like times of transition for them. And in the comic, it's very much like Obi-Wan struggling with, like, I don't know if it's like now he's in his early 30s or whatever, but he's struggling with parenting a child and he still hasn't figured out his own shit himself. He's very much like, I don't know what to do with him. I believe Anakin briefly considers leaving the Order when he's like 12, and in that comic, I want to say it's a bit of a Cantum moment, one might say. It is the first of several moments of him being like, I don't know who I am, and I have to take care of this kid who doesn't know who he is, and I'm really alone, and I'm really scared, and everybody else, like, nobody's helping me. And that's also why I always like defend Obi-Wan too. I'm like, he was literally just a little guy given a child, and not that Anakin was like difficult, but that like it was a specifically difficult job, and they're like, have at it. So
no, okay, it's literally Obi-Wan Kenobi fucking doesn't even graduate college. He's fucking in his student teaching era, and he's given a child who has never been in a school, and they're like, okay, he needs to be reading at a middle school level by tomorrow. Goodbye. Like, okay, that's a lot of things for that one gentleman to have to endure. Great, cool, thank you. Any resources? No,
Yeah.
because Palpatine is like, he, you bitches are gonna hate the rest of your lives.
yeah, and also the kid is like special. He's like he's incredibly gifted.
He's
so
neurodivergent
it's like,
and a minor.
he's literally neurodivergent, and like Obi-Wan is going through his like midlife, maybe I'm neurodivergent moment, and then they're like, here's a neurodivergent child, also who is a genius, and you're like, huh? So I don't know. In this era,
Obi-Wan had just taken the RAADS-R and gotten like a 195, and then he was like, oh, I should probably deal with that. And then they were like, here's a child, and he's like, I will not be dealing with that right now, actually.
in that sense, then we finally get to Attack of the Clones. And in Attack of the Clones, at this point, Obi-Wan is in his early 30s, mid 30s. And Anakin is 19 and an older Padawan. And this is when we have the start of the war, and we have Obi-Wan being like, his attachment to Padme is a little off. That's a problem for later me. As a problem for later me, because we are about to get into a war. They have really weird interactions with Dooku, which is very funny because it's like war with grandpa, literally. Like, they're like, hey, here's your grandpa you've never met. He's crazy and he tried to kill you. Again, it's one of these transition periods. It's very typical of all of these things. Is like when Anakin and Obi-Wan are separated, bad things happen. When they're together, it's fine, but they're separated. And then Anakin's like, what if I got married? And Obi-Wan is not there to be like, huh? Although, Obi-Wan, what did you think was gonna happen? Quickly.
I do like the idea of Anakin and Padme going to Naboo, Vegas, to hide away. And she's like, "Do you want to get married?" And he's like, "Sure, my droids can be the maids of honor."
I also do very much like the idea, because like it's kind of implied, like Obi-Wan knows that Anakin and Padme are like kind of, bumping nasties. So he's like, it's fine. I very much like the idea too. And we see this a lot in the Clone Wars, which I'm getting a little ahead of myself with, but we do see like, he is like, listen, I'm not telling you what to do, but just like keep in mind not to get too attached. Like, just keep in mind that it's about like, don't become possessive. So I think it's really interesting. Like, I think that is a really good highlight, and why I think that unfortunately, my pitch is that I do think that the last Clovis arc from the Clone Wars is essential reading for Star Wars. But that being said, I do think it's interesting to see Obi-Wan and I think we get a glimpse of it in Attack of the Clones, kind of contextualize that thought process behind like, well, what is a good, healthy amount of attachment? And he's also saying, like, I'm giving Anakin the space to make that decision for himself.
So that's actually a pretty central thing in the Brotherhood novel. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but it connects really well with Master and Apprentice and other stuff. Like, it's about kind of their transition from being, like, your teacher and your mentor to being equals. And again, they're both in this period of, again, he's having a bit of a midlife crisis where he's been put on the council and he's like, I don't know if I'm good enough for this. And Anakin, who is always sure of himself, is not sure of himself for the first time when he's made into a Jedi Knight. And they're both in this place, and then they're thrown into it in a war. And something that's really big in Brotherhood is that they both think about Qui-Gon a lot. It's actually very sad. Anakin thinks about Qui-Gon a lot, actually, in Queen's Hope as well, but they both think about Qui-Gon a lot. And Obi-Wan thinks of, like, he's like, there's a lot of, like, I couldn't be what Anakin needed, which was Qui-Gon, and I don't know how to be like him, in that, like, he understood, like, being able to connect with people and not being able to connect with people in an empathetic way, but also not form unhealthy attachments, something that Anakin needs. And I haven't figured that out because I have so much shit in my perfectionism in myself, and it's crazy in there. And at the end, this is not as much a spoiler, this is kind of a thematic thing, but at the end you have this very, very sad moment where Obi-Wan actually listened to a speech from Satine, and he's like in his head thinking about her, whatever, and he has this moment of like, Qui-Gon thought about the world different than I did, and he was able to not form attachments, but be able to think about attachment and stuff differently than me, and that's obviously what Anakin needed. And, you know, if he were still around, or if I had made a different choice with Satine, would I have been able to balance those things, and how would that be today? And then he looks at Anakin, and he's like, maybe then I could have been what he needed, whatever. And you're like, oh my God, Jesus fucking Christ, this shit hurted. That's also the point in the book where they're like brothers because they both consider Qui-Gon to be like a father. And that's kind of the whole crux of what is sad about Obi-Wan is that he was never a father figure to Anakin. He never could be. He was just like a brother to him, going through similar if parallel struggles. And he's like, oh, I failed you, I'm the reason, I'm whatever. And he's like, you did not fail him, it was not your responsibility, he's not your kid, like, he was your brother. Anyways, I'm making myself sad.
Yeah, no, I think that is totally like the thing at hand, is that Qui-Gon was the father, and the father that it's not that he preferred Anakin or anything, but Obi-Wan has this thought in his head that he's like, oh, I hate to do this because I think this is maybe the most out of character thing I've ever said in my entire life, and like I think it's going to elicit some very negative reactions from my co-hosts. It does unfortunately kind of remind me of Supernatural in a very evil roundabout way. Mostly because I don't think John Winchester is. Are you combined at all?
I was like, don't insult Qui-Gon like that.
However, I do think it is this thing of like the older brother like having this like complex about the younger brother having this connection with their father that is not the same. And I'm so sorry that I'm bringing this up. Like, genuinely cancel me. This is time. It's time.
Okay, but I Mel, I've never been prouder. But also, oh my god, this hurts me. It's because I've been listening to the Mysteries podcast. I understood. Thinking about Obi-Wan as Dean Winchester has hurt me physically.
Oh my god, we can't do that.
I'm so sorry. We gotta move on. We gotta move on to the Clone Wars.
The Cody watch for Clone Wars is that he is there.
He is. And that is something that we really do get in the Clone Wars, is we get to see Obi-Wan's relationships, not only with Anakin, because while that is like this central relationship that he has, we also get to see how he interacts with his fellow Jedi. We get to see all of his interactions with Satine, which really contextualize a lot of the ways that he talks to Anakin about relationships and about attachments. I think that's a really important piece of it as well that we get, is we see that he is like, he chose, in my interpretation, he chose not to form that attachment. Like, he had the attachment, but he chose not to foster it because he knew he felt it would become possession. Like, he felt that he would not be able to control it, and he would not be able to be who he is, and he would not be able to live to his full potential. And I think that really is interesting in how it colors his reaction to saying, like, Anakin, you kind of need to choose your own thing because I made my choice. So it's almost as if he's like, here's your out. Here's your thing that you get to make your decision about.
They tee that up really well in the Brotherhood novel, where Obi-Wan is thinking about Satine. He's reminded of her, whatever. He's thinking of these choices, whatever. And he's like, and the whole time he's been like, I need to have a conversation with Anakin of like, hey, are you okay? Like, what happened on Tatooine? Like, also just like hey, I know you're a Jedi Knight and that transition is really hard and I want to be here for you. And like, he keeps thinking of like, oh, I want to have these conversations with him, whatever. And then he thinks about Satine and he's like, I also, and then he sees Anakin with Padme a couple times and is like, there's something there. I'm not going to acknowledge it. That's a problem for later me. But then he goes, I need to have that conversation with Anakin, and he almost does, and then he doesn't. And if you've watched the Clone Wars, then you know that he does then have that conversation with Anakin later, and he has been thinking about it. And it's interesting to now think that he's been thinking about it for years. In the Brotherhood novel, basically they say like, I don't think he ever thought it would become possession. I think he thought, he was like, oh, he says outright, he's like, we decided, the two of us, not to because we thought like her people needed her and whatever, and it wasn't like it was going to become possession. And I think for him it wasn't like I didn't think it would become possession. For him it was like, I can't reconcile it with the person that I think I'm supposed to be, which is then when he's slowly realizing, and what he tries to convey to Anakin of, you can make your own way, that's your dream, Dad. Kind of deal. And the sad part is that Anakin doesn't get it, unfortunately.
I think it's really interesting is we see a lot the idea Obi-Wan being like, okay, everyone can make their own choice, but not me. I got my own shit I have to do.
That's very relatable.
Not to me. I've never felt pressured to do anything in my life. That's a joke. Anyway, I think something else we get to see in Clone Wars that I think is an important note is Obi-Wan in connection with the other Jedi and with the Council, because I think there's this notion that Obi-Wan is like, he's the ideal Jedi. He's the Council's lapdog. Like there's kind of that interpretation. And I think that in the Clone Wars, he's pretty much like, we see a lot of times where Obi-Wan's like, yeah, maybe I'll just like kind of do my own thing. And I think that it's really nice and refreshing to see, like, yes, he is more in line with the Order than someone like Anakin is a lot of the times, but that doesn't mean that he's like, oh my gosh, the Jedi guys, that's against the code.
He's just like, he actually is living up to, in the interesting way, he's like, oh, I'm never going to live up to Qui-Gon, but in that way, he does. And that's exactly what Qui-Gon would do. I believe in the Brotherhood, he's like, WWQD. WWQGD. What would Qui-Gon do? He does kind
Why
of
did you
do
say,
that.
wait, why'd you put 2 Ds?
QGD.
Oh, I thought you said, I was like, Qui-Gon doo-doo? Anyway.
You're done.
I'm channeling Sifo Dyas right now.
You're done.
When he calls
oh my God.
Dooku doo-doo.
Sifo Dyas slay.
But I think that that's a good thing that we see. Also, his relationship with the clones is nice to see. I think, unfortunately, for a show called The Clone Wars, we don't get to see the clones as much as I feel we should. So I would love to have seen just a little more. But like the Ryloth arc, I think is really, really cool. And it colors like how Obi-Wan has structured his battalion and how they respect him and how he actively respects them. I think that it's like a very neat insight. Again, I just like seeing bitches interact. So I think that's a very fun thing.
I think like the one thing that was, I quite liked the Brotherhood novel, but the one huge thing that was missing, and I do not think that it's the writer's fault, because I think that the clones at this point, they are Dave Filoni's little guys, so they're very much off limits, was the establishment of that relationship with the clones, because it's very interesting. And also like they have a very interesting conception of brotherhood and what that means, and like figuring out who you are as a person, who you are as an individual, and how you are in the collective as a brother, and the parallels of that with Anakin and Obi-Wan trying to figure out how they relate to the collective of the Jedi and to each other would have been very interesting, and is very interesting when you see it in the Clone Wars. So seeing how that began, I think would have been really great, and been able to flesh out Obi-Wan and Anakin's characters very much, because the book was about them. Because for me, like, by the end of the Clone Wars, it is really like Rex and Ahsoka who have the close relationship, but like Rex and Anakin have a very close relationship. Obviously Cody and Obi-Wan do as well, but we never get enough of that, and I will never shut the fuck up about it. But like I mean,
unfortunately it is just that George Lucas was like, I'm tired of this one.
Literally,
I don't feel like doing it anymore.
Literally, like I want to know, how does Rex know that he became Vader? That Anakin became Vader? Like, does?
Oh, I was talking about Cody.
Oh no, well,
but George Lucas was just like, I'm done with him.
Yeah, I'm very sad about that. I think that with
it's literally the meme of like Andy.
Andy
like, I don't want to play with you anymore.
No, literally. It's nice to see Obi-Wan have relationships, I think, with people who aren't Anakin. Not that I don't think it's valuable, but speaking of Anakin, I also think that this really deepens like his relationship with Anakin, and it shows why it is so much more tragic. This is one thing I'm excited for about like the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, is I know that Darth Vader is going to be in it, but I'm excited to see who Obi-Wan is when he is not constantly being like, what's Anakin doing? But I think something that we see is like one arc that I also think is essential reading is the Rako Hardeen arc, because I think that there's a lot of times where it's like, well, dang, Anakin turns on Obi-Wan real fast. And I agree. Like, I think that it is, in Revenge of the Sith, he hits a breaking point, right? But I think that having little moments like that, where it's like, clearly Obi-Wan still very much cares about Anakin, but Obi-Wan has this tie to his duty that Anakin just doesn't quite always have, or he views it in a different way. That arc really does exemplify like Anakin's issues with the Jedi Order, and then Anakin's issues with Obi-Wan being like, hey dude, you know that was like a stupid thing to do and you didn't have to do that. And he's like, well, cool, but I actually have an idea of what I should be doing, so I do have to do that. And also Sheev Palpatine is maybe pulling some strings here, my dear.
What's interesting about that arc is it follows that same theme of whenever they are separated, that's when bad things happen. That's when the misunderstandings happen, or differences in philosophy or whatever. Because One thing that I've liked across a couple pieces of media, not just the latest 2 books or whatever, is this feeling of like Anakin makes some stupid choices and has some stupid ideas, but he has the potential to not. He has the potential to learn and grow, and he is Palpatine consistently makes it so that he is isolated, so that he is rooted even further and further in his beliefs that are wrong, and so that the people around him whose beliefs are evolving, like Padme figuring out, like, there's something off about this war, or Obi-Wan, who we see it in the Brotherhood novel, we see it starting in the Clone Wars, we see it in a couple different places, being like, there's something off here. He is consistently isolated so that he doesn't go on that same journey. And what's interesting is like they consistently have these moments of like, this is something that we should talk about and that I want to talk about, both Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme, but they're like, we just don't have time to talk about it. We do want to be mature adults and talk about it, we just don't. And maybe then Anakin would have changed his mind or been on a different path, and that's kind of a part of the tragedy of it all. And the Reiko Ardeen arc, I feel, is the biggest example of that, like when it hits the breaking point. The smaller one that I think is a breaking point, and that's, to me, I think is a breaking point of like, a lot of people often say this is like, oh, this makes Revenge of the Sith make a lot more sense, is actually the Ahsoka leaving arc. One of my favorite Obi-Wan moments is so small, and you have to point it out to people, which is when Ahsoka leaves and Anakin runs after her. Obi-Wan tries to as well, and somebody puts a hand on his shoulder and stops him. Somebody on the Jedi Council stops him from going after. I do believe
it is Plo Koon.
It's Plo Koon? What the fuck?
I think that makes sense. I think that is the thing that I will say about the Clone Wars, is that we have a lot of opportunities for Ahsoka and Obi-Wan to be besties and see what they're really like together. And we don't a lot. I think that the parts that we do are really helpful. Like in the Mortis arc, when they're just kind of 2 pretty best friends, I think it's very fun. I would like to see more of them. That is, I think, a lot of my, not necessarily complaint about the Clone Wars, but I think it is clear that Obi-Wan has episodes that are about him, but narratively speaking, there aren't a lot of like overarching, like there are not a lot of huge character arcs and changes that he goes through, unlike Anakin, obviously Ahsoka and Rex and other main characters. Obi-Wan, I feel, is almost like the consistent person there, because I think the reason for that is that Obi-Wan's main character like developments happen in the movies, where I think he is very much someone who is like, okay, I'm cool, I'm good until I'm not, but then I'm good again.
Yeah. Like the Brotherhood novel comes like right after Attack of the Clones, and like that's like right his like big moment of like, shit, who am I? What am I doing? Whatever. And then, it's a couple years, and then we see him again in Revenge of the Sith, or actually, I'm sorry, in the Battle of Christophsis at the beginning of the Clone Wars, and he's like, this is where I'm at.
That movie is crazy. The Clone Wars movie?
The Clone Wars movie.
You guys haven't seen that? That movie's crazy.
It's also crazy. I'm so sorry I've been talking about the Brotherhood novel a lot. I will not. Only because Ventress is in it a lot. And so thinking about how that's the first time he meets Ventress, and then I don't know if it's the next time he sees her or whatever is in the Clone Wars movie, is fucking hilarious. Because their encounter in the Clone Wars movie is very funny. Whenever I think about Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, I get sad, and it is one of my favorite relationships in Star Wars, and it is also my main critique of the Clone Wars, is that I do believe that they have the same problem as Padme and Ahsoka. I joked about this on Gold Squadron Gaze of Ahsoka and Thrawn, even, of like, the two of them are too capable. If they spent too much time together, the entire story would fall apart. If you had them like in the Mortis arc, like they were getting shit done. Like you can't put them together too much. I think about that moment where they stopped him running after her, and maybe for Plo Koon, it was kind of a moment of like, hey, this is a moment that Anakin has to have with his Padawan. But I think for Obi-Wan, it's very much of like, he has realized Anakin is my equal and my brother, and he doesn't get another Padawan after that, and he never got to be like a full adult himself, and now he's a master, whatever, and he's like, he considers Ahsoka to be his sister as well. And here's what I'll say. No clone mention in the Obi-Wan series is going to make me want to kill someone. No mention or acknowledgement of Ahsoka, that's where I will draw the line. I mean, Padme will piss me off, but Ahsoka, the whole thing is supposed to be about, you know, how he has lost a brother or whatever. And I know that we've already dealt with Ahsoka and Anakin's relationship in Rebels. And in the Clone Wars, like she says my brother Anakin, but she also says, I know in the book she says like my family. She says Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like it's very important to me that their relationship is acknowledged.
I think that the Clone Wars ends like obviously Obi-Wan doesn't get like a super concise like ending in the Clone Wars because it takes place at the same time as Revenge of the Sith. So that's the real ending there. But I really like Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars because I think it gives you a look into like what like his MO. Like it's not just like, oh, here's him in like the most stressful moments of his life. It is like, here's some pretty stressful moments, but also here's how he is like operating. And it's just like, how is that little guy processing things? I love that. Do we want to talk about what happens at the same time? What he is doing during the all of the issues happening in season 7 of the Clone Wars in the last arc?
So I'm just gonna bring us through Revenge of the Sith, which thankfully there's not like it's not a heavy plot to explain. I'm pretty sure everybody who's seen Star Wars knows about it. But the gist of it is the last time that we see Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars, he is talking to Ahsoka because he's like, hey, we think we know where General Grievous is. Also, you should capture them all. Okay, bye. And she's like, hey, tell Anakin I said hello. And he's like, I definitely will. And then they do not speak after that.
He says hello there in a sense.
So true.
Oh.
In actual Revenge of the Sith, the movie, which is season 7 of the Clone Wars, I believe you can insert that last arc like halfway through the movie, like intermittently, but like that conversation is about halfway because basically Obi-Wan and Anakin are like, oh no, Chancellor Palpatine got captured by Grandpa. We have to go rescue both of our geriatric friends. And then Anakin is like, I'm going to be a problem and I'm going to be the French and I'm going to use the guillotine. And he cuts off Count Dooku's head and he dies. And then Obi-Wan's like, no, please don't join the revolution. And Anakin's like, I don't care. And they move on. And then
War with Grandpa.
Yeah, well, and then Grandpa dies. His head rolls across the floor and he's gone forever. So, oh well.
The alternate ending for War with Grandpa. Sorry.
War with Grandpa AU. Robert De Niro's head has been removed from his shoulders.
They crash land a ship. Grievous has asthma still, and then he has to deal with that.
Grievous has asthma. So funny to me.
I like that you've said
he
that.
Does.
Yeah, but I like that you've implied that that Obi-Wan is fixing, quote unquote, Grievous's asthma by killing him.
He doesn't have asthma anymore.
Yeah. Asthma cured. No, they crash the ship. Obi-Wan makes a joke about it a number of times that Anakin saved his life. And then he's like, yeah, we've been friends for a while. And then they go off into the sunset. The long and I'm sorry, I'll just put in the chat the one permanent cure for asthma, death. Yeah, the whole gist of this movie is that Obi-Wan goes off to deal with Grievous and Anakin's like, I'm really busy. Sorry. And then honestly, the only big scene of note that I want to talk about from this movie is not Hello There, which I know it's like the most famous scene in the movie. However, when Obi-Wan goes to Padme to confront her vis-a-vis her relationship with Anakin, the expression that Ewan McGregor does, he's like, Anakin is the father, isn't he? But his face is like tragic. Like not in like a I'm sad you're pregnant way, in a I'm really sorry it's Anakin's baby that you're carrying.
I mean, and was he wrong?
No. It is deeply, deeply funny. And then Obi-Wan does go and he deals with Grievous. Grievous dies in a passion. He does explode, which is my favorite thing that happens in this movie because Obi-Wan shoots him.
And then doesn't he like fucking say like so uncivilized?
So uncivilized, yeah. He picks up a gun and throws it aside.
Yeah, and then he does try to kick Grievous.
Yeah.
That shit was so funny.
And then he shatters his knee, unfortunately.
That is the best part of Revenge of the Sith. People are like, oh, Revenge of the Sith is an underrated masterpiece. I'm like, yes, the part where Obi-Wan hits his shin really hard is Oscar worthy.
Well, and they edited this out. I don't know why, but I actually did get a recent clip of it where there's about an hour of footage of Obi-Wan in a pink cast and he goes around and has the Jedi Council sign it, but they didn't show it for some reason.
Yeah,
also followed by
sad.
I was so afraid you were going to make another taint joke that you were going to say Grievous
literally
fell on his taint. I was so scared.
He didn't fall on his taint though. He did break his shin open, but like he didn't fall on his taint.
His Quigussy.
Quigussy? No.
His cyber Gussy.
Okay, he didn't even kick him in the Quigussy. Okay, he kicked him in the leg. Let's be clear about anatomy.
His Legacy.
All right? Yeah, exactly.
Not
his
Legacy.
Yeah.
Isn't that the bitch from that anime?
From
Okay.
One Piece?
No, I fear
No?
that I'm having another thing of where I am like knowing things about fandoms I'm not a part of. Are you talking about Beastars?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yes. Damn, is there something wrong
Obsessed.
with me? Am I the problem?
Yes.
I'm the one saying the word
Thank
looksy,
you.
so I feel like
Thank God
maybe I
Mel
should be
is-
put on trial here.
Thank God Mel is here because I fear you guys just don't get me.
So spoiler alert for Revenge of the Sith, in case you haven't seen it, tune out now. But
Wait. I haven't seen it. Let me leave the call.
Okay. All right, now that Ollie's out of here. So the ending of Revenge of the Sith, basically Anakin's like, I've been manipulated, and he turns to the dark side in a passion. And then I almost said General Grievous again. I'm a fake Star Wars fan. That's really great. Chancellor Palpatine is like, this attack on my life has left me scarred and deformed. He ruins democracy forever. Padme has the best quote in this entire fucking franchise, and no one ever respects her for it. Natalie Portman, my Jewish icon, I think about you every day. She says, "This is how liberty dies," with thunderous applause. It's very slay. And then Anakin's like, blah, I'm evil now. And he turns to the dark side, and Chancellor Palpatine executes all the Jedi via Order 66. Cody hands Obi-Wan his lightsaber and then immediately murders him like maybe 12 seconds later. It is my favorite
It's
progression of
homophobic.
any scene.
He was
It's
hogging
It really
no,
is.
he was hogging the blankets the night before.
Yeah.
He said,
It-
"I'm waiting for an opportunity."
At this point, he was like, he didn't even pick up the call. Like, they edited it in to make it more convincing, but there was Cody never received Order 66. He just thought, well,
Cody was just like, I'm tired of Obi-Wan.
Exactly.
He said, I think we should break up, but I don't know how to approach the topic, so I'm just gonna shoot him off the side of a wall.
Cody's
The
never
one
heard of
perma-
ghosting someone.
The one permanent cure for breaking up with someone.
He's
Cody misunderstood what ghosting is.
exactly. He's like, you create
Yeah.
a ghost, correct?
It's close enough. He shoots Obi-Wan off a wall while he's climbing with a giant lizard, and then that lizard falls into the ocean and dies in a passion. And then Obi-Wan swims away because he's too slay for water, so he's like, all right, I got this.
Unlike Stellan Geos.
We're
No,
not
because
talking about
Stellan's
that.
fine.
What-
No, Stellan swam to the shore and then Comac came and picked him up, and now they're fine.
What about it instead of the shape of water, it was the slay of water?
So
Anyway,
true.
moving
That's
on.
I hate you.
Obi-Wan goes back to the Jedi Temple. He and Yoda are like, we have to go into the Jedi Temple and look at the archives. And that's when they see Anakin murdering children in a passion. And Obi-Wan's like, well, someone has to deal with this. You may notice that I've told this movie entirely out of order, and I'm leaving it up to the viewers at home to put it in the correct chronological space because I didn't want to.
Doesn't matter.
Not to interject, but real quick, I just want to say in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, there is the moment describing like Obi-Wan and Yoda sneaking into the Jedi Temple, and Obi-Wan like pretending fucking Yoda's like a baby, and then I'm pretty sure he's like talking in a really like weird accent. He's just like, Jedi baby, isn't it? The clone troopers there are just like, what the what the fuck kind of baby is that? It's like, it's his Jedi baby. And then they do, I'm pretty sure, like either kill or knock them out. It could be either way.
They murk some bitches. It's quite dark.
Yeah, they do die in a passion. But they find the video of Anakin being like, blah, I'm evil. And then Obi-Wan's like, we have to deal with this. So Obi-Wan takes Padme, and Padme is like, I'll drive. I have a way nicer car than you. Because I feel like Obi-Wan drives like a PT Cruiser, and she's like, I'm not going to Mustafar in that.
He drives a PT Cruiser, and this, when I was in college, there was someone who drove a PT Cruiser on my campus, and they had a bumper sticker that said, in quotes, it said, wow, that's a really cool PT Cruiser. And that is nobody. And I'm like, he has that on his car.
Yeah, I mean,
he's self-aware.
May I also propose Prius driver Obi-Wan Kenobi? I feel either of those are appropriate. The point is that Padme's like, I wouldn't be caught dead in that. We're taking my much nicer car. So they do. And then Obi-Wan shows up with Anakin. It's good for he's in like a little chamber. I don't know why he got in there when the ship took off. Like, she knew he was there. And then basically Anakin's like, I'm evil now, so I'm going to choke my wife. And then he does. And Obi-Wan's like, put her down. And then Anakin does, and they fight. And then eventually Anakin dies into passion in lava. That's the story of Revenge of the Sith. It's not in the correct order. It is also not a faithful or good retelling. But I think what I want to point out about Obi-Wan's character is that he is a man of great, great tragedy. And I do appreciate about that. I mean, I don't think that he's pitiful per se, but like he's a little pitiful in like kind of like a slutty way.
Listen, I'm just saying, we know that Luke and Leia, when he brings Luke to the Lars homestead, that baby is at least like 4 months old. I'm just saying he stayed there.
Yeah.
He stayed on Alderaan for a little while, just whoring it up before he went. That is my
I agree
belief.
so completely. Yeah, I think what I
He was
like
polycule
about
hopping.
and
Not
honestly, and
homie
not that there's so
hopper.
much drama.
He is a homie hopper. He went from Bale and Brea to Owen and Beru.
Obi-Wan like homie hopping. This is why like Uncle Owen in like the Kenobi trailer
Had a messy breakup.
Yeah, they had a messy breakup because Owen found out about Obi-Wan's homie hopping, and he's just like, "Wow, you whore."
Obi-Wan being a very tragic figure. He's in that like Hall of Fame of Star Wars characters who have lost literally fucking everybody, which is like Chewbacca, Leia, Obi-Wan, R2-D2.
Kanan.
Okay. Well, I mean, everybody has lost somebody, but like, I mean, everybody in their life. It's just like
Gara Zebarelios.
No, he still has family around him. Whatever.
Not pre-Rebel.
Obi-Wan fucking dies alone. Chewbacca outlives everybody.
Obi-Wan does not die alone. There are other people
trying to kill him.
Anakin's literally right there.
Yeah.
You're done.
I'm sorry that you're invalidating Anakin Skywalker's personhood.
Actually, I'm decanonizing A New Hope.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan died peacefully in his sleep. Actually, is the funny thing.
Obi-Wan does bisect his former apprentice, which is really funny. I also love this moment because of the fact that Anakin's like, I'm gonna fight, and Obi-Wan's like, don't try it. And he's like, basically, if Anakin is fuck around, Obi-Wan is find out. And that is very much what happens there. Anakin gets chopped in half. And here's my thing. I'm gonna judge Obi-Wan a little bit, because I know that it must be pretty hard to kill your former apprentice / figure that you consider your brother. But if you've already chopped him in half and removed 2 of his limbs, you really couldn't have finished the job. Like, even maybe like a slight nudge into a river of lava, that was too hard for you?
No,
that was too far.
I feel like leaving him to burn feels crueler.
Well, I do believe that Palpatine brings that up or something to Vader. I might have been dreaming this out, but because I've read a lot and I don't remember, but like where he's like, he could have put you out of your misery, but he didn't because he fucking hated you. And Anakin's like, yeah, you're right. But I mean, I think, and I do believe, I want to say in the Ahsoka novel, because there are some asides with Obi-Wan where he's like, I did something incredibly cruel and I just left him there and I feel awful. Also, what is it with Obi-Wan and like literally cutting off people's legs? Like, he just keeps doing it.
Like, he has something against Lussies, and so he just has to keep removing them at all times.
You're done.
He's amateur surgeon. He's trying to diversify his portfolio for if something bad happens to the Jedi. He said, well, at least I have this.
All of this could have been avoided if Obi-Wan just committed to like the sad role of all my loved ones die in my arms, because I guess he didn't love Anakin as much as we think, because he didn't let Anakin just die in his arms. He was like, well, I cut off your limbs and you're on fire. That's good enough. Goodbye.
It's because everybody else in his life is like a dog, and then Anakin is like a cat, and he's like, well, you fucked around and you found out you were on the counter and then you fell, and that's on you.
See, you were on the counter and then you killed a bunch of literal children. That's on you.
See, but like he learned his lesson, because later on with Maul, this is going into Rebels territory now. So let's talk about what was going on with Obi-Wan in Rebels, because he does show up. He did, I'm pretty sure, was it like Kanan who contacted Obi-Wan, or like somehow?
In A New Dawn, Kanan, Caleb Doom is like, Obi-Wan is like, oh yeah, there's this message that calls everyone back to the temple. And he's like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a message that could make people leave the temple in case something happened? So that's the
don't come back to the temple.
A go away beacon.
The go away beacon, yeah.
Kanan once again is the biggest brained Jedi every single time.
But yeah, there's Obi-Wan's little voice in the holocron. That's like the first appearance of Obi-Wan in Rebels, is Ezra looking in the holocron being like, ah, damn, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. But later on, Ezra and Maul have their little dumb shenanigans, and Ezra having visions of Maul and being like, damn, everyone is Maul. I gotta kill this guy. And they're like, no, Maul is not here. You're insane. And Ezra's just like, I gotta get out of here. And he goes to Tatooine because he's just like, I'm pretty sure like Maul is trying to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, even though like everyone told me Obi-Wan Kenobi is dead. But I'm pretty sure like Maul is trying to find Obi-Wan Kenobi. I gotta stop Maul. I gotta kill Maul. And he ends up on Tatooine with Chopper, and they're wandering around the desert, and then Chopper overheats and turns off, and Ezra's like, damn, we're gonna die out here in the middle of the desert on Tatooine. And then Obi-Wan shows up and he's like, hello. And he's like aged 1 billion years because Tatooine, you know, is the beach from old. And he helps Ezra out. And then they're chilling by a campfire. It's somehow nighttime now. Maul shows up and is like, yo, I'm gonna kill you. And Obi-Wan's like, not today. And then they're gonna fight. And Obi-Wan changes up his style to be more like Qui-Gon's like fighting style. And then he does finally kill Maul for real this time, because as you all know, the first time it didn't work. He just performed bottom surgery. And this time, unlike what happened with Anakin, he's like, okay, now you die in my arms. I'm gonna hold you here until you die. And Darth Maul dies. And Ezra is like, oh shit, goodbye. And Obi-Wan's like, yeah, goodbye. So Ezra leaves to go back to his family. And he like doesn't tell anyone that he met Obi-Wan Kenobi in the middle of the beach from old.
Yeah, it does make me feel crazy that Ezra like met Obi-Wan, whatever. Does he talk to Ahsoka? Or no, that's season 3.
No, he doesn't talk to Ahsoka again after that.
Well, he sees her in the world between worlds.
Yeah, but he's not like, hey, just so you know, I met Obi-Wan.
Just so you know, I met Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No, but
it's like she thinks he's dead. Like until she has always thought he's dead.
I'm curious how that will play out, because I think it'd be very funny in the Ahsoka show. She's like, I knew that bitch was alive. I just didn't want to bother him because he was being annoying.
She is the original Fulcrum and at the head of intelligence for the rebellion. It would be very surprising if she didn't
Ahsoka
know.
Ahsoka being like, I didn't think to check Tatooine because like that's some bullshit. I also am obsessed with Ezra just being like, I'm just not going to tell anyone. And meanwhile, Rex is like, man, it really is sad that literally everyone I know is dead now. That's so sad. And Ezra's like, yeah, that is really sad.
And Ahsoka, who like did find out that she figured it out before she went to Malachor, but who's like, shit, I do believe that Vader is Anakin. Nobody has decided to tell Rex this.
Rex is like,
they don't want to hurt Rex by making him know this stuff.
I'm obsessed with the idea of Rex being like, damn, that bitch was alive after everything we went through.
I think
we were enslaved together and he didn't even think to call me and be like, hey, the baby's made it. Like, fuck that guy.
I think she purposely didn't tell Rex because Rex would have gone and tried to find Vader himself and been like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he would have died on the spot.
Vader would have. He would have had he would have been like, no, Rex, and then just passed away.
Yeah, and then, you know, Obi-Wan, he, after Ezra has gone away, he goes back to like looking out over the Lars family homestead, and you see young little Luke Skywalker, who is actually, you know, probably like Ezra's age, so he's not even that young.
He's like 18.
He's like 18. And then he's just watching over them from a distance.
16 at this age.
No, because Ezra is like, this is like near the end of Rebels already, so Ezra's already like 18 at this point.
He's like
maybe
this
17.
Is season 3, so yeah, he's like 16, 17 here.
I think like
no, because it takes place in
4 years.
No, that he's definitely like older, 17 or 18. This does not matter.
Okay,
yeah. Anyway,
whatever.
So fast forward some more. You know, this is after Ezra Bridger has disappeared with Thrawn. The Death Star stuff's going on. Leia sends her gay little droids out to Tatooine. And R2-D2's like, beep boop, gotta find Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Well, there's also the introduction to them is also in Rogue One when they're like, the shit is about to hit the fan, and Bail Organa is like, well, guess I gotta
find
have
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
and old Mon Mothma turns to him and is like, I guess it's time to pull the last thing out of the chamber, and he's like, I gotta send the person I trust the most, which is obviously Leia, and then that's why, and like, so he's mentioned in Rogue One.
Okay, and then they're in the desert. Were they? I fucking, it's been a while since I watched A New Hope. Pretty sure like the the Jawas or something take them, and then they're trying to sell them, and Owen Lars is like, yeah, we need a new little droid. So we'll take this one droid, but then the droid fucking explodes. So he's like, oh, never mind, I'll get this other droid. And then Luke meets R2D2 and C3PO and is just like, damn, okay, hey. And R2D2's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, and starts wandering off. And Luke is like, where the fuck did the droid go? And C3PO is just like, he ran off into the desert. So they go off to follow R2D2 because Luke is like, hey, yo, you can't be leaving. I'm gonna get in trouble. And then were they getting like, were they gonna get attacked? And when Obi-Wan shows up, and it's like,
no,
hello?
Luke gets his shit rocked by a Tusken, and then Obi-Wan shows up and is like, in the Tusken language, is like, sorry about my stupid little guy. If you guys could fuck off, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Luke is like, oh, you're old Ben Kenobi. You're the weirdo who lives in the middle of the desert. And then they go off and do some things.
Like they go to his house and he tells him about the Jedi. Just some things.
Yeah.
He hands him a lightsaber that he directly points at his face.
Yeah. I think it's so slay of Jess and I to be recounting these movies, having frankly no concept of what the actual plot is.
So then Luke has to be with Obi-Wan, and they're like, we gotta get the fuck out of here because the Imperials are looking for your gay little droids. And then they go to town and they end up meeting Han Solo and Chewbacca. So, Chewbacca and his fucked up little dog. And they're like, oh yeah, we can help you get off Tatooine. And so they do.
This scene in the cantina is also one of my favorite Obi-Wan moments, and it very much ties with the Clone Wars because he's like, yeah, I've been hiding as a Jedi for God knows how many years, but fuck it. I'm just gonna whip out my lightsaber in the bar. Who gives a shit? I was he's lost the ability to give a fuck.
No, this is, Ollie? Thank you. I think this is thematically something like a big thing about Obi-Wan that I think is a departure, and I'm interested to see how they rectify it. Not necessarily rectify, but how they explain it in the show. Is that Obi-Wan in this is literally just like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Luke is old enough to learn. And he's gotten the message that's like, oh, they're calling me. I don't need to hide anymore. I can just be like, whatever the fuck, I'm sending the boy. And I think that it's cool that we see that throughout the rest of the movie is Obi-Wan, up until he basically perishes, just being like, Luke, I'm putting all my cards in you. I fear I do not have longer for this earth. And then even after he passes, he's like, bestie, you did not grow up with I raised one little guy who'd never been with the Jedi Order before to be a Jedi. I'm going to do it with you too. You are going to have to do it better than the other guy.
And then he does.
Capiche? Yeah.
Yeah, and he fucking
on the
slays.
Millennium Falcon, and he's making Luke do all the little Jedi training with the lightsaber. He's like, okay, no using your eyes. Then, he finally meets Vader, and they have their little moment.
He calls him Darth.
God. Obi-Wan does perish at the end of that fight, but it's wild because, he just like disappears, his cloak drops, and Vader kind of just like stares at it like, what the fuck just happened? Why did this man just fully disappear?
I'm sure that's the thing that
they're Force Ghost.
They're gonna cover in the series is, you have to have like Yoda, you have to have, and Qui-Gon, you have to have like gone through some, well, Qui-Gon never got to do it like fully, but you have to have gone through some like trials
Force
and connected
Ghost
with the
training.
living. Yeah, the Force Ghost pre-death training. And I believe that much like the thing in season 6 of the Clone Wars that Yoda does, I believe that is what Obi-Wan's little vision time in the caves is gonna be.
I also think, just to kind of mention, like, even in death, like after he perishes, he still reaches out to be like, hey, Luke, so the Jedi, we had our issues. I'm not gonna lie. It's not really our, like, all of it was not really our fault, because the Sith are bad. So please do fix things. You don't have to grow up to be your father, but also you need to learn to, not have attachments, and you need to learn to also be compassionate. But I'm also not going to give you the same speech I gave your dad. I learned my lesson on that one. And I think that it is just very nice to see, like it's cool to see Obi-Wan, like, in the end, but for, like, original in Star Wars chronologically, like, it is the beginning for him, because this is, like, that is who the character was. So it's basically all of this is building up to see, like, what made him this way. And I think it's really neat. And, like, seeing him in death as a Force Ghost being like, hey, bestie, here's everything that happened. So, like, we can work this out. I think it's a neat thing getting to see this character build up over so long and by so many different people who clearly just care about him.
And from a certain point of view, we have finished this conversation.
Welcome to our favorite segment, just Name That Ship. Viewers at home who've tuned in before will know Name That Ship, but if you're new, Name That Ship is where one of the hosts will go onto a website such as AO3 and find a fan fiction, and we will then regale our other hosts with a story of the tags, the other characters involved, etc., and then they will guess who the main pairing is. I've brought one today, and again, this is all in good fun. We do this for a love of the craft. I've brought one today. It is called Fallen Angels. It was written in 2012, so keep that in mind.
A vintage.
It is of a certain vintage. I will say there's not a lot in terms of the tags, but the premise of this, I had to bring it. So as I said, it is called Fallen Angels. It is rated G. It is character A/character B. And tags are character A, character B. So there's not a lot to work with. However, I will read the summary. I don't have an official plot written up yet, but the story starts after character A gives birth to a different character, not character A or B, but a different character in the epilogue of another fic they wrote. Parts of the story take place before one movie, and other parts are basically like canon divergent for another movie. So that is what you have to work with. I realize it's not a lot, but the twist did get me. It is very funny, because this is basically character A and B are the parents of a different character that exists in Star Wars canon.
Are the characters in question Callus and Darth Vader?
No.
So here is my thought. Because it is written in 2012, this is before the sequel, so it's nothing to do with the sequels. So what I will say is that I do think it could be Padme and Anakin give birth to Han Solo.
What? No, it is not that. I think that that's very, very powerful. It is not. It is characters who are not canonically parents.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like, this is not like, oh, their child was someone different. This is like another character who does not have canon parentage.
Are they a man and a woman?
It is a man and a woman.
Are they a couple? Are they a couple in the show, or
no?
Or are they a rare pair? Or what era?
I mean, so I thought it was a rare pair, but there are quite a few fics in the tag.
Hey, Ollie, what was the name of the fic one more time?
You have this. Hold on, sorry, I'm opening it. It's called Fallen Angels.
Fallen Angels. Okay, it's not. I thought it was the series that my fic is also in, because I was like, wait. Anyways,
no, they have another one that is called Defining Us.
Nope, that is not.
Oh yeah, okay.
Is Obi-Wan Kenobi involved?
Obi-Wan Kenobi is character B.
Okay.
So he is the father of this child.
It's not Satine.
It's not Satine.
And
is it a woman?
It's not Padme.
It's not. Is it a woman he interacts with in the Clone Wars, or
no? She is not in the Clone Wars.
Is it Bria Organa?
Oh, I believe he has interacted with her. I don't think that they have like talked canonically, but they've definitely been in close proximity to each other.
Mothma?
No.
Is it a Jedi? God.
No. I think you guys are feeling a little bit too late in the timeline for when they interacted.
Is it one of the handmaidens?
Yes.
Sabe?
It is Sabe and Obi-Wan. Do you guys want to guess what character you think
Okay,
that is their child?
They're both girl. Wait, oh.
Can I guess?
Is it?
Yeah. Just throw this out there.
Is it Mara Jade?
It is Mara Jade.
Okay, wait, no, okay, Ollie, I also have a fic with that same exact premise that I was going to bring to this. And here's the thing.
People are sending us the shit from that tag.
No, I found that on my own.
Also found this on my own.
Followed by, who is the creator real quick? This is an entirely different author who wrote the same exact thing.
Who wrote Sabe, Obi-Wan, and their daughter's Mara Jade.
It's a bit of a slay in that, both Obi-Wan and Sabe are girl bosses, and we know that Mara Jade is a girl boss, so, like...
There is a line in this where they are like, she has your red hair to Obi-Wan, and I'm like, I don't think that's true.
No.
The idea, oh my god, this is...
Here's the world's quickest name that ship. Are you ready?
Yes.
So this is a called Fucking and Trekkin' and one other word that I won't say because it'll give it away what is happening in this. The tags are the ship name, freeform, humor, trans character. This is entirely a crack fic, and it's pretty easy to guess just based on the theme of this episode.
Is one Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yes, correct.
Is one Yoda?
No.
Is the other character trans canonically or no?
No.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Cantum Psi.
Yeah, I was like, is it Cantum Psi?
No,
it's
Wait.
Obi-Wan / sister.
So is this two men?
Yes, this is two men.
Is it Cody? No, it's a crack ship. Damn.
It is not Cody.
So is it a Jedi or a clone?
Nope.
Hondo?
No, not Hondo.
Damn
it.
it.
That though.
Lars?
Rush
Owen
Clovis.
Lars?
Neither of them.
Cad Bane.
Not Cad Bane. You're getting closer to where
Embo.
my head is at. No, not Embo.
Dang. Okay.
Jango Fett.
Not Jango Fett.
Is it like a character who is like a bounty hunter type deal, or like a third party actor?
In terms of shit posty characters.
Is it Dex?
It is not Dex.
Okay. Just like funky little guys.
I
Jabba.
wouldn't say funky. I wouldn't say he's little.
Is it
it's
Jabba?
Not Jabba.
Damn it.
Oh no, is it the purple one, Zero?
No, it is not a Hut.
Okay, wait, question. You said the title of this fic was Trekkin' and Suckin', or was it Trekkin' and Fuckin'?
Fuckin' and Trekkin' and a word that starts with the letter C.
Fucking?
No, not cucking.
Oh. Damn. I wish it wasn't.
Cookin'?
Cooking is closer to the word. It's C-O.
Sucking and... Does it rhyme?
No, it does not rhyme.
Oh, I thought it was the word cock. You can tell what's on my mind. It's not very helpful.
It's not cock.
So it's not a bounty hunter. It's not
He's a character from the prequels.
Please don't tell me it's Jar Jar Binks.
It is not Jar Jar Binks.
What would Jar Jar Binks have to do with Trekkin' and Fucking?
So true.
Boggle the Lesser.
Not Boggle the Lesser. No, once again, I like where your head is at, Jess. You are so close.
Why was I just like...
No, not Count Dooku.
Why
That's
was
disgusting.
Can someone tell me why I was just like, Dan Devo? Like, don't think he's in the movie.
Not Dan Devo.
Is it one of the Trade Federation guys?
No, but you guys are so close. You keep spiraling around this character.
Alien?
I mean, technically.
Is it Grievous?
It is General Grievous.
Oh,
the title of this fanfiction is Fucking and Truckin' and Coughing.
No.
It's asthma, no.
It's the asthma.
Rhyme.
He's like, my darling, my love, I can cure your asthma, but I do have to kill you.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you do have to fuck you.
No.
The only surefire cure for asthma apparently is sex with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh,
This
well.
just in. All people with asthma are virgins?
Anyways, thank you for playing Name That Ship.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of RuPalps Padres. With Kenobi starting at the end of this week, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled weekly episodes every Sunday. But for updates, Star Wars news, and more curse shit, follow us on social media at RuPalps Padres on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you really love the show, please consider rating and reviewing our show on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Spotify, or Overcast. It really helps more people find our show, and we really appreciate it. And for more about Obi-Wan, make sure you check out our Obi-Wan lore expert and friend of the podcast, Julia's podcast, Star Wars English Class. Julia and her co-host Brian have some great stuff in store for the Kenobi series. She also created a guide to all Obi-Wan canon media that you should check out that we'll put in our show notes. May the Force be with you, and don't kriff it up.
Waka waka.
Waka.